Hi everyone, Liane here. I hope you're doing well. Today I am filming outside in my neighbor's lovely garden, and I wanted to start out the video just by demonstrating how I refill all of my pens using the ink converters. Most of the ink converters out on the market are Piston. The style of Piston cartridges differ. This one is a twist style, and this is the Pilot Con 40. I believe the 40 means the 0.4 milliliters of ink that it can hold. And you could see that you just kind of snap it or push it into the pen just to secure it. Some ink converters are screw cap, or like they're a screw in style, but this one is just friction. So I just filled that up with ink, and then I close up the pen by screwing the parts all together, and the E95S that you just saw is a snap cap. Now up next this is my Pilot Falcon in a soft fine nib. This is also a twist cartridge converter. It's a piston cartridge converter with a twist style mechanism, and it's also the same ink converter as the one that was in the E95S that I just showed you. The metal beads, as I've read online, they help get rid of any air bubbles that get caught in the converter, just so that the ink dispenses uniformly and reliably. I really do like oh, hello fly. A fly is making a cameo. But I really do like just the ease of ink converters. They're great for when you just want to be able to experiment with different types of ink. I also love that it's refillable, so you're just avoiding parts, empty cartridges going into the trash. But yeah, so with the Pilot Falcon, it is a screw cap. Now what we have next is my Lamy Safari, and this is also a twist style piston converter. Now when you are refilling your ink, you want to make sure that your nib is fully submerged, just to ensure that you are drawing as much ink as you can. You could see that I submerged mine past the nib there, but that's okay. It just wipes off pretty easily. And then with the Lamy Safari, you just screw it closed, and the cap is a snap cap for this Lamy Safari. Next up is the Kaweco Classic Sport, and this one is not a twist style. Instead, it's a plunger style piston converter. And it's also known as a syringe-style converter instead of, well, it's a plunger, aka syringe-style converter. And a trick that I learned is that in order to get the most fill in your converters, you want to insert your nib completely, and then you basically expel all the air that's in the converter. Then you draw in the ink. While keeping the nib submerged, you continue to expel and draw in, and then expel completely, and do that 2 to 3 times until you don't see any air bubbles getting released in the ink well. Now this is the same, it's a Pilot Con 40, the same as the other converters that are in my Pilot Falcon and the Pilot E95S. It's a twist style. All the converters so far are all piston cartridges. The styles are just different. My preferred method actually though is to use an ink syringe. And the reason why I use an ink syringe is that it's just less messy. I don't have to insert my nib into the ink, especially using these ink sample vials. The neck is really small, and so then my pen and my hands all get dirty. But using an ink syringe, you could see how easy and clean that is. I might have overfilled that, but I think it was okay. My pen writes just fine. And what's helpful to know is that if you know the ink capacity of your cartridges, then with using the ink syringe, you could see how much ink you are filling. I believe the Pilot Con 40 has the capacity to hold 0.4 milliliters of ink. So if you want to be precise, you can use the markers on your ink syringe, fill it up to just a little under half a milliliter, and you can pretty much fill it without wasting much ink. So this is a squeeze converter that comes by default with all Pilot Metropolitans. I've heard that it just doesn't draw ink as efficiently as the Piston style converters or the Piston converters. So I also like to just fill this with an ink syringe as well. Inside the house to swatch my inks, and there I am wearing my grandmother's ring. The first ink that we have is Robert Oster's Barossa Grape, and I'm changing things up by using my wax seal stamp here. Let me know what you think, but I do have my stainless steel cup in the upper left-hand corner just in case this doesn't work out. I'm also using a new old glass dip pen, purchased this on eBay, and it's a vintage Japanese glass dip pen. Writes very fine, and I noticed that the ink capacity was exceptional. The fun thing about this ink is that it appears more purple when it's wet, and then as it dries to more of a dark, like a purple-black ink, where you can hardly see that it's got any trace of purple in it. But I think that's the fun thing about this ink, is that as you write, you see the drying transformation going from a wet purple to then seeing the dried text, and it's being almost nearly black. There's no sheen to this ink, there's no shimmer, and there's some medium shading in the Barossa Grape. Now this next ink is Vinta Makopa, also known as Vinta Malayan Apple. As you can tell from my title, I picked inks corresponding with my favorite fruits, and I love grapes, especially when you freeze them in the summer and you can pop them in your mouth like little mini popsicle bites. So lovely. The Vinta Makopa is a Malayan apple, or Makopa means Malayan apple. I really wouldn't have purchased or even known about this ink had I not Googled or searched for apple-inspired ink colors. It's absolutely gorgeous. It comes out off as being just this bright fuchsia, has high sheening. It sheens to like this golden green sheen. Absolutely vibrant and fun for summer. Now another fun summer color is the Kobe 30 Oji Cherry, and it is just this bright, punchy, bubblegummy flamingo pink. And I really, really liked and was impressed by this ink. It's actually my first Kobe ink sample, and I'm really excited to buy a full bottle of which color I don't know yet, but I really enjoyed just writing with this Kobe ink. We grew up with a cherry tree in our backyard, so every summer I just spent, so many hours climbing the cherry tree, picking the fruit, and eating it right off the tree with my brother. Now the Oji Cherry has low shading. There's definitely a little bit of gold sheening along the edge of the dark spots as it dries, and there's no shimmer in this ink. Now I thought the Oji Cherry was bright, and then Kobe 11's Ikuta Orange was absolutely the most vibrant ink out of the bunch. After trying this ink, I realized that I need to get myself a bottle of Kobe ink. And I just love oranges. I love Mandarin oranges in the wintertime, navel oranges. I grew up eating a Costco size box of oranges after school every single day. But I just love how bright and vibrant this color is. Not only is it super vibrant and saturated, it's got just this beautiful sheening, more sheening than the Oji Cherry. It's got this like golden sheen as it dries. A fun fact about Kobe inks is that they come from the Nagasawa pen shop in Japan. However, Sailor Inks, Sailor makes the inks for the Nagasawa pen shop. Next up is Diamine Apple Glory. I got this ink as a part of a sample set from Goulet Pens. I believe it was some of their best-selling shading inks. This is a beautiful, rich green color. It's got definitely some shading in it. You can't really tell in the extra fine tip of my glass dip pen, but I have it inked up in a calligraphy nib in my Pilot Metropolitan, and that has been a fun writing experience just to see the shading properties of this ink. There is no sheening, there is no shimmer, but what definitely stands out in this ink is the fact that it does shade beautifully. And not to mention, I just love apples, and for a short period of time when I lived in Texas, I was known as the apple girl because I always carried some variety of apple in my bag at all times. Next up is the Monteverde Mandarin Orange. It's a beautiful color, probably more fall inspired rather than summer, but this is a beautiful orange, reminds me more of pumpkins and the fall season. And there is some shading, there isn't any shimmer in this ink, there's no sheening as well, but absolutely gorgeous. But what I do love about the Mandarin Orange is that I just grew up eating it, especially around Christmas time. We'd gather with other families for the holidays, and there was always a box of Mandarin oranges, and they are just some of my favorite fruits, hence it being on the list this month. Now I wanted to add, though this isn't one of my favorite summer fruits or one of my favorite fruits, I wanted to just include an olive green ink. As you may have seen in my previous videos, I am on a quest to find that perfect green ink to pair with my olive green Kaweco Classic Sport. And so this month I am trying it with the Colorverse A PSC. As you can see, you know, just with the glass tip pen, it's just got this sort of like eucalyptus sage green color. It's a little bit lighter. You may not notice it so much now, but definitely a little bit lighter compared to some of like the darker like khaki greens that I have. But it's beautiful. It shades well. I don't notice any sheening, and there is no shimmer in this ink either. So now I'm just showcasing the sheening properties in this ink, in these inks. You definitely see sheening in the Kobe Ikuta Orange and also the Vinta Makopa, and just a slight bit of sheen in the Oji Cherry. Now I am showcasing the writing samples with the pens inked. This is the Pilot E95S in the fine nib, and it's a gold nib as well. And this is one of my wetter writers, and paired with the Barossa Grape, you definitely don't see any purple, especially as it dries. In my Pilot Vanishing Point in a fine nib, I have it inked up in Vinta Makopa. And I have to say that so far, I really have been enjoying writing with this pen and ink combo. It's really fun to see a little bit of the sheening as I write, and it's just been really fun to write with a really bright, vibrant color. Next up is my Pilot Falcon in the soft, fine gold nib. And there's definitely more flex in this nib, and I have it inked up in the Oji Cherry. Just because it's a flex nib, I thought that I would pick an ink that would shade nicely, and it has been really a good combination. I love that it is a bright color, but also it's subdued in a way. It's not as neon, especially compared to the Ikuta orange. My Lamy Safari Savannah in the medium nib is paired with the Ikuta orange, and this pen and ink combo has also been really fun to write with, just because of the color combination of the pen body with the bright orange. This orange also reminds me of one of my son's, one of his favorite winter knit caps that he wears. And so, yeah, I just love writing with this ink. And honestly, is there an ink that I don't love writing with? I'm finding that I am enjoying each ink in their own ways. So now I have my Kaweco Classic Sport. This is in a fine nib, and I would even say it's a lot finer of a nib compared to even other Kaweco fines. And I have it inked up in the Monteverde Mandarin Orange. And this has been my go-to pen for writing in my Hobonichi A6 Techo planner. I just need a finer line, a more precise line, and the Monteverde Mandarin Orange, it seems to dry pretty quickly, so I haven't had any issues with it smearing. So this one is the Diamine Apple Glory inked up in my Pilot Metropolitan. This is in a calligraphy nib. I'm getting used to writing with a calligraphy nib, to tell you the truth. I think that you have to hold it at a certain angle in order to really highlight just the fact that there is line variation. But I have been enjoying how the Apple Glory inks, or how it shades in a broader nib. And last but not least, I have my Kaweco Classic Sport in the dark olive. It's in a broad nib, and I have it inked up in my Colorverse A PSC. This ink reminds me a lot of the Robert Oster Avocado. I'll probably do a side-by-side comparison in a future video. So far, I have to say that I've really been enjoying the Kobe Ikuta Orange in my Lamy Safari, in addition to Vinta Makopa in my Pilot Vanishing Point. And the Monteverde Mandarin Orange has been a lovely ink to write with the Kaweco Classic Sport in my Hobonichi. Thanks for watching. Bye.